Big old coon too.
Old Bama.
Thanks, miss.
Boy, if that don't make you smile, I don't know what it will, man. I don't. You can check your
Welcome
post,
to Thoughts of a Dog Man podcast. On this episode, we're talking about phase 3 of the Pup to Partner series for starting puppies. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about some dogs.
Welcome back. I am happy to see you. I am happy that you are here. I'm your host, Stevie Thomas of Bawlin Out Kennels, where we help new and beginning handlers create, perfect, and explore the art of hunting dog training through stories, tips, and techniques, and that proper mindset to get you started on the right track. So here we go. We are on phase 3 of the Pup to Partner series, where we're starting these puppies. And I want to recap on what phase 2 was. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, I will go check out phase 1. If you're just starting out and you're just now getting tuned to the podcast, again, welcome. We're glad that you're here. If you're in the phase of starting a pup, phase 1, we pretty much lined out around what ages we like to start pups and just different ways on how I like to train or start pups. I'll say it multiple times. You know, the way I do things, I wouldn't say is the way to do it, but it is a way to do it. Again, it's really tailored towards a new and beginning person who's just getting started. They just picking up this new love and this new drive of hunting dogs and wanting to start a dog on their own. So this series is going to help you get started on the right track. So I would check out phase 1 and let's recap on phase 2 to where we were talking about introducing a pup to live game. So here we still talk about rabbit dogs. We talk about tree dogs, which for me, I am biased. I love my American Leopard curs. To some people, they're American Leopard hounds. Not to be mixed up with Catahoula. That is a different dog. It's a different mindset with those dogs. It's just a completely different dog, although they may look a little similar. But I love my American Leopard curs for my tree dogs. And I just recently started with bird dogs. I have a couple setters for my bird dogs. And I'm really learning as I go with that. So a lot of the information, again, if you're somebody who's new to it like I am, we're going to learn together on the bird dog side of things. I'm learning that a lot of stuff that I've used to train my beagles and train my tree dogs can be used with bird dogs, but it also has its own monster. It's also different when you're training a bird dog compared to more of a houndy type dog. So again, recapping on phase 2, we're introducing the pups to live game. And pretty much we're saying we're going to start at a distance. Make sure that you're starting at a distance and you're going slow. You really have to read your pup. And when we're talking about pups, depending on how mature that dog is, let's say beagles, it can be 6 months old and older. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting them at 4 months old. I've had beagles who started at 3 months old, and they're legit running rabbits at 3 months old. But that's not always the metric that I go off of. That may be an anomaly, meaning that dog was just mature. It was just part of that dog to start early. But I really, on average, I look at it from 6 months old up to a year. Somewhere in there, you got to figure out what's going to work for that dog that you have. Tree dogs, depending on what they are, some can start early, but some often start a little bit later, which again, it's not a big deal. As long as you're giving that dog enough opportunities to be what they're going to be, if it's in them at all, it's going to come out. So you just got to take your time and really read that dog. let's say we're showing them a rabbit for the first time, really going to start at a distance. You're going to take it slow. Allow that dog's curiosity, his natural want to find things, use his nose and that sort of thing. Take heed and really allow that dog to go over there and check out, that rabbit in the cage. Sometimes you can put it just in the area that the dog is normally messing around. Pups, they love playing. They love checking out different leaves, and they just check out things. They just get into things. That's a good thing for a beagle. But again, with that animal in the cage, you just allow that dog to naturally find it and watch their reaction. If they get scared from the rabbit bouncing around in the cage a little bit, I will remove them from that situation, and I probably will start even further distance. Just give that dog a little time to calm down and figure it out on their own. You don't really want to push it on them or rush it on them, because you can start working backwards, and we're really trying to get forward progress here.
Hey, real quick, are you somebody who's new to rabbit hunting with beagles, or maybe on the fence and trying to get started or not? You might want a little bit more help getting pointed in the right direction. Well, I got just what you need. Producing a future rabbit dog. So in this short little book, I pretty much lined out exactly what I like to do when I'm picking my puppies, when I'm training my dogs, and just some other concepts I've learned over the years. Me, Ty, with a bunch of my mentors, put this together. A lot of this information is easy to follow. I want this to be as easy as possible for anybody who's never got in with dogs or rabbit hunting with beagles to be able to produce a future rabbit dog. So if you sound like that's you, go and check it out on Amazon and grab you a copy.
Same thing with a tree dog. Start at a distance, allow their natural curiosity to take over, and allow them to discover the squirrel in the trap. We talked about keeping the session short. You want to try to keep it as fun as possible for these puppies. You got to think about yourself. As kids, when we first start playing a sport, we didn't sit there and play it for 10 hours and think we're going to have the same excitement in the 9th hour as we did at the first hour. You just really want to keep them short, keep that dog engaged as much as possible, and you really want them to want more. You want to leave them when they're most excited, they want more. Shut it down. Give them something to think about on the next session. So here on phase 3, what we're going to move into, because again, we've done our stick and string work, we've done our drag work in phase 1 and 2. We've shown them live game in the cage on phase 2. Now with phase 3, we're going to start doing some sight release and kind of basically prepping them for hunting type scenarios. So I'm really going to try to walk through the difference between, a beagle, how I like to do it for the beagles, or ways to do it for the beagles, ways to do it for the tree dogs, and what I've discovered, what I've tried with my bird dogs. So with the beagles, the sight chasing or sight releasing, you really got to take your time with. And you really have to put yourself in a position and put that dog in a position to really be able to actually get a decent chase out of that rabbit. So it's really no different as what we done in phase 2, to where if you have somebody with you, it works a little better, but you can also do it on your own, to where someone or a buddy or maybe a tree, you have your dog leashed up to the tree and you have the rabbit in the cage and you're just trying to get the dog excited. For me, what I would do was I would take the rabbit in the cage, I would have my dog leashed up because I'm working by myself, and I would just run back and forth with the cage in front of the dog. Just get them super excited, wanting to pull off that leash and get to me and get to that rabbit in the cage, leaving them super excited. So once you have a dog that is excited about that, he's not scared of the cage. He knows what the rabbit is. He's super excited when you see him. He's smelling, his tail is wagging. He's showing you all the signs that he wants this rabbit. He's enjoying what is happening right now. So the next phase is releasing that rabbit right in front of that dog. Now, this can be kind of tricky. And the reason I say it can be kind of tricky, the timing is really key. Because what I've done in the past, and it's kind of hard to time it out, is sometimes when you release that rabbit out of the cage, the puppy may not actually be looking at him. Some pups get so excited they actually start barking at the rabbit in the cage. And we're talking about beagles. So you really want to try to face everything in a direction. So when that rabbit finds its way out of that cage, you open up the door for it and it's running out of the cage. The dog, the puppy, is faced that exact way so he can actually see it take off out of the cage. That's the best scenario possible. Because again, I've had it to where, the puppy's super excited, there's a lot going on, and you go to pop that door so that rabbit can run and you can release your puppy at the same time. And what do you know? The rabbit runs out the back door and the puppy is not even looking at it. The pup doesn't even see the rabbit run out of the cage. And now you have spent that time trapping the rabbit, going around to neighbors who having problems with rabbits eating the flowers in the garden. You've done your work there to trap them. And now you almost just wasted a training tool. So really try to set yourself up to where that rabbit has an open field, so to speak, before it gets to cover. And the reason I say that is it allows that puppy a better opportunity to see this rabbit run. So what you really want to do, and what I've had done, is I'll take an extra leash. Again, we've talked about going to, some of your Tractor Supply stores, your Walmarts, and you can find a coon trap and a smaller squirrel or rabbit trap in one. It's like a bundle. So you can have both of those. So we're working with a smaller trap here, and I've taken an extra leash, and usually there's a clip on the front of it to where you can just weave your leash through there, clip it on itself, and now you have the length of 4 foot or so. So when you actually go to lift the door on the cage, you can hold it open. And again, that's just working by yourself. Now, if you're with a buddy, obviously your buddy would hold the cage. You would be with your dog, petting him up, encouraging the dog. And when you go have your dog ready to, off the snap, just holding him by the collar, and you pretty much let the rabbit or let your pup go, and your buddy would, as soon as you let your pup go, you would give him a decent distance. Your buddy would open the cage. So by the time the pup actually gets to your buddy, the rabbit will be running out and his mindset would switch. It'll see that rabbit run and now the puppy will start chasing that rabbit. But again, if you're working by yourself, you can use an extra leash if you have one or even a rope, and you can tie off to the front clip of the trap. And this will just allow you to hold the trap open as you hold your puppy at the same time. So again, you want them faced in the same direction, so that way that pup has every opportunity to see this rabbit run out of the cage. And now the chase is on. Sometimes that pup may only give a few squeaks. He may try to chase him. That's exactly what you want. You can't expect him to run the rabbit completely the first couple times you do it. It's really just pulling even more of that sight chase out. A lot of times you'll get a few squeaks out of them and then you just want them to try to chase. So if we're going to talk about our tree dogs, this too has its own unique spin to it. Because let's say I like to use squirrels. We talked about that in phase 1 and 2. I really like using squirrels for my tree dogs early on. Squirrels are a lot smaller than the dogs. They're not as intimidating as taking on full-grown coon, who is a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more mean in the trap. And the first time your pup sees anything in a trap, it's a real mean boar coon or something like that. You don't want that, because sometimes that can shy dogs away. So using a squirrel is just a little bit easier. They're easier to handle. Again, it's really a confidence booster for those tree dogs. Again, this is the same situation I started with my beagles. I will tie my dog off to a tree, and I would run back and forth with the cage in front of my dog or my pup. Just getting them super excited. You're talking to them. You see them. Sometimes you can start giving them the bark. They're showing you all the signs that they're excited about what's going on. They love seeing it. And then I would set the cage in front of them and I would walk over to my dog and I would get behind him and I would pet him up and I would talk to him. Whichever word you want to use, just encouraging that pup to see that squirrel moving back and forth in the cage. The difference with a rabbit and a squirrel, you want to try to face the squirrel towards the tree or a tree that you want the dogs to go up. If at all possible, I would really try to put that squirrel where there's only one possible tree that he can go up. Because when in doubt, and I've done this many times, if you have a squirrel that has an option of 10 different trees and you got him pointed towards that one tree you want him to go up, it's almost guaranteed he's not going to go up that tree. He is not going to go where you want him to go. So if you can lessen those options and allow that dog or allow that squirrel to have one tree to run up. So that way, when you release the squirrel in front of the dog will chase the squirrel seeing, and that squirrel has enough time to go right up that tree. Again, the first time this happens, your dog may not bark at the squirrel right away, but he ran after the squirrel, he's chasing him, he's seen the squirrel go up the tree. A lot of times those pups, they'll start circling the tree, and you may start to get a little whimper out of them. These are all good signs. These are all good signs. Because eventually that whimper is going to switch over to a bark. Now he's almost treeing off of sight. To start with, this is something I do not mind. Now, I will say, try not to get too carried away with doing a bunch of sight work. Because most of the time, the dog is not going to see the rabbit. He's not going to see the squirrel. So you really still want them to use their nose. But again, we're still in the beginning phases of transitioning this dog to being able to put everything together. Doing a sight release, 3 or 4 times won't do harm. Unless you get a situation where the dog is just sighting on. That's all he's doing. That's all that pup is doing. Another thing you don't want to forget, which I've done before, is keeping that cage there. And I'll circle back to that as to why you don't want to have that cage there. So again, with the bird dogs, let's switch over to that. Bird dog is pretty similar. Now you can order bird bags. It's basically like a size satchel that you can hold your birds. I use pigeons. I've trapped a lot of pigeons. And I think on phase 1 or 2, we talked a little bit about, where I like to trap my pigeons, how to go about getting a bird trap and doing that sort of thing. And for the most part, you can buy pigeons as well. But I really like using pigeons. So there's like a size satchel that you can stack, 5 or 6 pigeons in and letting that dog work using the pigeons. I've talked about before to where I really like to take them out and I'll let one wing of the pigeon free and I'll just move it around in front of my dog. If they have any point instincts, usually this is when you'll see them come out, and I will release those pigeons right in front of the dog, right in front of my pup. The pup is going to want to chase those birds and he's going to circle back to you once he figures out, okay, I've chased it enough. I can't catch it. Well, let's go back and see what dad's doing. By that time he circled back to me, I will dug in my bag and I will have another bird already ready to go. So as that pup turns and his sights become on you, you can get his attention by waving that bird again. And usually those dogs will stop and point. Again, that's making sure that that dog is old enough and you've done your pre-work to get him to point, to know that he has at least some pointing instinct in him. This just helps pull that out a little bit. So now we're building on some of the hunting scenarios. Is you've done your sight releasing for the dog. You've released the rabbit in front of them. They've chased it. They're starting to lose them. They're starting to work the scent a little more. You've released squirrels in front of your dog. The squirrels are growing up the tree. The pup is following behind and he's starting to bark and starting to do some of those things that's showing you that he may be ready for the next step. Now we're starting to prep the hunting scenarios. So pretty much these hunting scenarios are going to be the pup really no longer sees the live animal. You are going to a place to where you can release the animal before the dog even gets over there. And then you will just casually walk your dog to that area where you released either the rabbit or the squirrel and see what the dog does. You're starting to put them in the area where there's fresh scent of this animal that you're training them on, and see what that dog does. You'll see if he'll start to get excited when he comes across that scent and see what they do. Some of the dogs will start working it. Some of the tree dogs, again, they'll start working that scent, going up to the tree. And what I like to see there, if they get to that point where they can do that, you'll see them maybe check another tree and come back to that one. Check another tree and come right back to that. Those, in my eyes, are all good signs because it's using its brain. It's not just going over and barking up any tree. It's really trying to figure out, okay, I'm over at this tree. I don't really smell that squirrel scent on this tree. But man, it smells really good on this tree. Well, let me go over here and see if I can smell it over there. Well, I don't really smell it over here, but I smell it at this same tree. And eventually you'll get that dog to stay put and they'll start whimpering and they'll start barking. Now you're seeing real progress. Because now he's basically in a hunting situation or a hunting scenario. Same with the rabbit dogs, with the beagles. If you have a rabbit trapped, or if you start to see rabbits out in the yard, or you take them in a place where there are rabbits just out and about, walk your dog over there. And usually this works best in the evenings or early mornings because rabbits are nocturnal by nature. So they're usually out, still in the early morning hours, or in the evening they start to become more active. If you see one sitting out, just walk your dog over there and see what the dog does. You know for sure that he's seen enough rabbits at this point to where he's familiar with the scent of that rabbit. Again, these are still puppies, so it may take 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 or 7 times before the pup really starts to lock on to what's happening. You can't forget too, sometimes scenting conditions are not that great. And you're still working with a puppy who doesn't know exactly what he's doing just yet. And you can't always dictate what the scenting conditions are. So you got to try to give that puppy as many opportunities as possible. Because you don't know if the day you're trying to do some training is just a bad scenting day to where even older, mature, seasoned dogs can't even move the track or can't even figure out where, what tree the squirrel went up or where the bird is sitting. All those sort of things. And with my bird dogs, what I've learned in the same similar situation is I've gotten bird launchers and I've started to use them on some of my pups. But another thing you can do, which I've learned from, my guy, Tori Wise, he taught me this, is you can basically sleep the pigeon. You can sleep them. So pretty much what you would take a pigeon and you basically turn them upside down in your hand. You cup the wings closed and you lay them upside down in your hand. What you can do is you can take their head and place it under their wing. And again, you're not squeezing so tight that you're smashing them, but you're just keeping a nice firm grip as you tuck that pigeon's head under its wing. And then lay it on that side, the same side that his head is on, whichever wing it's on, that's the side you lay him. And you can feel him. And it only takes literally 45 seconds or so. You just hold his head under his wing, close his wings, and just have a nice firm grip. You can feel that pigeon fall asleep in your hand. They're breathing, it just slows down a little bit, and they just start to relax. If you can find a small bush or just somewhere that's not super hard for the puppy to find, I would just lay them on that same side of that same wing that you tuck the head under. Just lay them on that side in a small little bush. It doesn't have to be super tall grass or anything. You want it fairly easy for your bird dog to find it, at least get in that area. And what you would notice is, again, you would casually just walk them over to that area and see what they do. See what they do. Sometimes you can leave those pigeons there for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. I've had one sleep as long as 10 minutes. I was able to walk back to my kennels and walk all the way back out to where I put the bird down. And it took about 10 minutes because I still had to put the collar on and all that stuff. So sometimes it can actually last a decent amount of time to where that bird is asleep there. Now that scent is starting to pile up in that area. And you just casually walk over, take your pup and walk them over to that area. What I'm learning with the bird dogs is one thing you really want to be cautious of is which direction the wind is blowing. Because if you can cut the wind, it's a lot better for that dog to pick up that scent. You really don't want them to be straight downwind of it, because sometimes those dogs will run straight to where that bird is and he really can't pinpoint how close he is or how far he is. And a lot of times with wild birds, I'm learning those birds will be gone. They'll be busted before that pup even has a chance to really get fairly close to them. But cutting the wind, let's say the wind is blowing south. If you got a south wind, you really want to try to cut that wind east and west, either direction. So when that dog comes across that scent, when that pup does, you want that pointing instinct to come out of them, where they just lock up. The pup won't even know why it's doing it. It just will be a natural reaction to that scent, because you play with him enough. He knows what the pigeon smells like. Again, obviously, you're not going to use pigeons his entirety. It's just a training tool. But that dog will come across that scent, and now he'll just lock up. And that's something you want. And I'm not going to say that as a puppy still that he's going to hold a point for 2 hours or anything like that. It's probably not. But you're seeing enough to, again, start those hunting scenarios. That's what we're talking about. Just keeping those hunting scenarios. And now I'm just basically going into hunt prep. And then I call them fake outs. What I like to do with my beagles or even my tree dogs and a little bit of my bird dogs, the dogs are smart. The pups are smart. They start to realize when they're about to get a training opportunity. So a lot of times what I would do was I would take, the cage if I have one trapped, and I would just walk past the kennel. I would just walk past the kennel with the squirrel in the trap or the rabbit in the trap, and I would make sure that pup sees me. He knows he knows it's game time. He knows we're about to play. And you really want to try to keep it play for these dogs just so they stay excited about it. But you're really going to fake them out. So you're going to walk to wherever you're going to release the rabbit or the squirrel or sleep the bird. You're going to go to wherever you're going to do that at, and you're going to let them go. And now I mentioned earlier, taking away that trap. What you don't want to do is leave that trap in that same area, because what you'll find, and the mistake I've made before, is leaving that trap out there. The dogs will go right to that trap, even though there's nothing in there. They will go right over there to the trap because, again, that's a lot of scent. They're used to seeing the trap. They're going to go right over to that trap and look for either the rabbit or the squirrel in that trap, even though you've already released it, the scent is somewhere else. To just avoid them from doing that, just take the trap away. Once you release the squirrel, release the rabbit, remove the trap from the area. Just remove it completely from the area. So now when that dog comes or that pup comes across that scent, he's going to try to work it, or should try to work it as best he can, specifically off that scent. So again, that's a mistake I had to learn, and my mentor Mike has taught me, and I've seen for myself. If you don't take that trap away and leave it there empty, a lot of times those pups will go right over to that trap, and now you have to try to get their attention away from that trap and onto, the scent, the fresh scent of the running rabbit or the squirrel, or where you slept the bird at. Dogs are smart. That to me just says that dog is fairly smart. He's paying attention to his surroundings enough to be able to pick up on some of that stuff. But again, don't be frustrated if it doesn't work exactly how you want it to in the very beginning. These still are puppies. I always go back to this example. When you were first tying your shoe as a kid, a lot of us didn't tie our shoe the first time we tried it. Whether you did the bunny ears, whether you did the loop, swoop, and pull, whichever method you used or were taught to tie your shoes, it took a little bit of time until you got it. And even so, after you've tied your shoes once or twice, if you got it, it may still take a little bit of time again to redo it. There's going to be a phase in there where you're getting it really good, you're doing it, and then you may forget how to tie your shoe. People didn't get frustrated with you. They just kept encouraging you to tie your shoe, and now you can do it without thinking about it. It's really no different than how I approach it with these pups. You have to allow them to tie their shoes, giving them opportunity to see the rabbits, see the squirrels, putting them in these hunt scenarios, and starting building blocks. You have to build on what you did previously and keep them going. But again, if it comes to a situation where the dog or the pup is not catching on right away, you as the handler, you as a trainer have to step back and maybe go back to a previous step and work them through it a little bit and really pay attention to how they're reacting. Being locked in and focused on what this pup is telling you. Either he knows what the drill is, he knows what the game is, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, you as a handler, that's where, your mindset has to come in. Your creativity has to work for you. And you have to, decipher why this pup is not picking up what I'm trying to tell him. Because there has to be a miscommunication somewhere. Something had to happen to where the message you're trying to get across to this pup, he's not getting it. So again, slow down, step back, and go back to the last drill, the last training technique, the last thing you were doing that pup got, and move forward from there. So let's recap. So we're talking about the sight release for the pups in phase 3, to where we've done our work on the back end, to where we've done drags. We know the dog isn't afraid of an animal in the cage. Now we're working our sight release. Just making sure the best you can, releasing that animal in front of that pup so that pup can see it and chase after it. That's what you want. A lot of encouragement. Once that pup is doing that really good, now we're going to hunt up our hunting scenarios or our fake outs, to where basically we're showing the pup that we do have, a rabbit in the cage or a squirrel in the cage. And now we're going to go to a training area where that pup no longer sees us release this animal. He no longer sees us release the rabbit. He no longer sees us release the squirrel. Or that bird dog doesn't see us go sleep the bird. And now we're just going to casually walk him to that area and watch the dog try to pick up on what we just trained him. Again, walking along with the dog and just watching will tell you a lot. So again, we're just still moving through those scenarios. If the dog is not quite picking up on it, go back to the last training scenario or the last training technique that the dog was picking up on and move forward from there. And don't be frustrated if it doesn't happen exactly the way you want right away. There's going to be some hiccups in there, and you may find a way that I didn't describe that works a little bit better for you and a little bit better for your dog. But we're really just trying to build a foundation or someplace that you can pick up training ideas to help get you started in the right direction with you and this new pup. So I really like to tell, the way I do things is not necessarily the way to do it, but it's a way to do it. And I learn just as much as you guys, as I hope that you learn from me. And we always try to keep it respectful no matter what. Just because I use a different training technique than someone else doesn't make me better or them better. It's just options. You really want to put tools in your tool belt because every dog is different. We can have a general consensus of how to train a dog, but there are certain nuances that are specific with those specific dogs. They're just different. They're really no different from us. We are all different. Our personalities, the way we learn, all those sort of things. So again, you really just want to have as many tools in the tool belt as you can to help you be a better trainer. And that's what here at Bawlin Out Kennels and Thoughts of a Dog Man, that's what we're all about. Really trying to help each other be better. At the end of the day, that's all it's about. We really want each other to be better and work together. We're way stronger together than we are apart, especially when it comes to training dogs. So I hope this week, I hope it helped you try out some of these techniques. And again, we really want to hear from you. Some of the things you liked, some of the things you didn't. If you used some of them, what were your results? We want to hear all of this. That way we can share with other new hunters who are just getting into this thing of hunting dogs that we love so much. And I'm your host, Stevie Thomas of Bawlin Out Kennels. As always, stay sharp, stay real, stay hungry.